Trudy's face went pale as she dropped her gun and fell to the ground. Kasa let out a menacing chuckle as she stood to her face. Her skin had already begun to regenerate where the bullet had hit it, and inside was a skull made of pure titanium, which glistened as the light hit it. "You really thought that I would be dumb enough to protect 89% of my body and forget about my head? You always underestimated me. Kasa, you have to stop this now!" Captain Joe Nateva limped alongside Von, who held his shoulder across his neck and guided him. "I'm the one you want. It was all my fault. Your fight is with me." "Exactly. That is why I'm doing all this." "What? Did you really think I came here just to put a bullet through you and walk away? I could have done that without making all this fuss." "Then, what do you want, Kasa?" "To watch you crumble and beg for your life. Now, why did we stop?" She flew into the sky again and began launching electromagnetic waves at different parts of the station. Explosions cracked through the air as she shot randomly. The captain turned to Von. "We need to stop her before she reaches the station's core. Once she hits that, it's all over." "Roger that, sir." "Don't you see that it's no use?" They both paused to look at Trudy, who was leaning on all fours, breathless, as silent sobs shook her shoulders. "Look around you. We've lost more soldiers today than any of our fights with other armies. 2 of our own have died as well in her hands. All of this is happening because of him, and now he's sending you to your death too." Von sighed before moving away from the captain and walking to her. He crouched in front of her and pulled her shoulders up so she was staring right into his eyes. "We can't give up now, Trudy. This isn't just about a mistake we all made 6 months ago. She's gone on a rampage. How are we so sure this would end here? We need to stop her now, or else our comrades' deaths would be for nothing." He squeezed her shoulders tightly and pulled her to her feet before nodding. Trudy nodded as she cleaned off her tears. "Let's go get that crazy wench." She grabbed her gun from the ground and they ran into the building. Kasa hovered above the dome structure, studying it quietly. Part of her had hoped that coming here would help piece together the missing pieces of her memories, but all it did was increase the rage that boiled inside her. She had to destroy it, and that was all that mattered to her at that point. Her heat sensors could still detect multiple signals from inside the building, which meant there was still a lot of people inside. But there were 2 coming right for her. She dodged sharply as Von lunged a large spear at her. She caught it, and as it went right past her, and threw it back his way. He dodged quickly. Suddenly, Trudy appeared from nowhere and began shooting at her. A couple of bullets hit her before she was able to pull out her force field shield. She groaned before flying towards them. They both scattered as she sent an electromagnetic blast their way. "Now!" Both of them threw a magnetic device at her, which stuck to her body and immediately began to beep. They went off before she could get them off, the blast sending her crashing into a wall. Von grabbed a sledgehammer and dragged it with him. As he walked to her, he began to trot and then jog. And soon he was racing at her, yelling as he got closer. He jumped, lifting the hammer along and aiming right for her head as he brought the hammer over his body as she lay on the floor. She caught the head of the hammer before it could reach her. He tried to pull it back, but her grip was too strong. Her fingers began to dig into the hammer, crushing it gradually as she stood to her feet. He let go of the hammer and tried to back away. She lunged at him quickly, catching him by the neck and lifting him right into the air, before flinging him back down right where the sharp end of the spear protruded from the ground. He groaned as the spear went through his back and came out of his chest, a sharp pain tearing through him. He struggled to speak as blood poured from his mouth, spilling everywhere. Trudy screamed as she watched the light slowly fade away from his eyes. His arms fell, leaving him hanging carelessly, suspended in the air as the spear held him up. She turned to Kasa. "Now, I'm going to make every last one of you suffer." She lifted both arms to the sky and closed her eyes, straining as she began to tear a warp through space. Trudy watched as the hole began to increase, till it was wide enough to cover the sky above the entire station. Suddenly, the wind began to howl as the warp began to swallow the station in. Soon, they were in a whole different place entirely. Trudy looked around. The atmosphere was dark and eerie and smelled like acid and death. Loud screeches echoed through the sky, and she turned sharply each time. The men began to come out from their hiding place and gathered around her. Confusion and fear plastered on all their faces. Kasa smiled as she watched them. "What have you done?" She turned to meet Captain Jonah Taver, standing in front of her. "Where did you teleport us to?" Her smile widened. "Welcome to my home." An ugly-looking flying creature swooped down from the sky and grabbed one of the men. He screamed as the creature took him into the sky and split him into two. The rest of the men began to scream as more of the creatures began swarming in. They grabbed their guns and tried to scare them off. Suddenly, creatures started bursting through the floor. The men scattered as the creatures began to chase them and claw at them from different angles. The screams and emails of the men echoed through the pitch-black darkness as blood splattered across the walls of the station. Kasa smiled as she walked to the captain's chair and sat, watching the carnage she had orchestrated. Thanks everyone for checking in to yet another Sci-Fi Creepypasta. This is part 2 of the adventures of Kasa Lon, and there might be a part 3, but I haven't really thought about that yet, so keep an eye out and we'll see if there is an appetite for a third part. Really happy you joined for this one. If you'd like to support the channel as per usual, please like the video. Honestly, that's the only way YouTube push these videos to more people, and I would really like to get into the thousands of views per video, so please, if you could do that, that would be amazing. If you would like to support the channel more broadly, then feel free to subscribe to Chronicles of Ghoul. We would love to have you. And if you'd like to hear more about upcoming content and when content is released, hit the notification bell. If you would like either to send a story that you would like me to narrate, or if you would like to actually just send some ideas that you would like me to write about, then either let me know down in the comments or send an email to the email that's in the video description. I think that's about it for this one. So if you would like to chat, as I said, the comments are always a good place to find me. But for now, thank you so much. And I will catch you very soon, hopefully in the next one. Cheers.